Hello and welcome everybody. Today we are going to be looking at the upcoming changes that BioWare has officially confirmed for 7.1.1 and kind of go over them and go through them. So this is the official post that they've made on the forums. So it says, "Hello everyone, Shabir here I think, and I'm the gameplay designer on Swtor. I wanted to start by saying we appreciate everyone for taking the time and effort to give feedback on the changes. I want to explain some of the changes we are making the upcoming patch. And some of these are a doozy. So the first thing we're going to look at is lightning / telekinetics. So patch notes are as follows. Conviction / clamoring force critical hit bonus goes to 12%, down from 15%. I'm not sure why they want to nerf this spec. The spec is not overperforming in any way as far as DPS goes. So this is just a straight DPS nerf. Next, we have Thundering Blast / Turbulence. The second arc of damage deals 20% of turbulence damages, down from 25%. Again, it's a 5% DPS nerf. Not really sure why they're doing this again. Doesn't make a lot of sense. No one has really thought, as far as a PvP perspective, that Lightning or TK has been overperforming, but it is what it is. Then we have Stormwatch. Its damage is also being decreased by 4%. Again, it's kind of the same lines. They're decreasing a lot of damage here. Halted offensive / power of the force cast time is increased to 3 seconds, up from 2.5 seconds. Alacrity still affects cast time. This is just strange to me. No one's really casting it anyway, but now it's just not even going to be used. The ability with a cast time of 3 seconds, that's just an eternity in PvP. Even 2.5 seconds was pretty bad. So I don't see this really being used at all. It's pretty much going to be taken out of using anything, so we're not really see this in a rotation. I mean, if you have a cast time of 3 seconds, that's just atrocious. Next, we have decreased halted offensive / power of the force damage by 15%. Again, kind of goes to the one before it. They're just straight up nerfing the damage on it and making the cast time longer. So that's an interesting change. It just completely cuts kind of the damage here. Again, Lightning's not been overperforming, so I'm kind of weird about why these changes are happening. It's kind of strange. Next, we have Conviction / clamoring force. Thundering Blast / Turbulence grants Reserved Darkness / Reserved Light, making Dark Heal / Benevolence an instant class, and increasing its healing by 30%, stacks up to 2 times. This is a good positive change. Lightning doesn't have a lot of sustain or anything for itself. It's pretty squishy. So it's giving something. It's not some big heal though, especially since they're nerfing the damage of it. So, it's okay. It's okay. They're not nerfing the damage of it, but the heal isn't that good. So, I guess it's something. And then we have Thundering and Lightning. Incoming Turbulence ability mod have their damage increased to 10%, up from 5%. Includes halted offensive / power of the force. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's like they're spreading out the damage over different abilities. It's like it just doesn't make a lot of sense why they're upping this and then nerfing the ones before. If you're gonna nerf something, just go ahead and nerf it. Don't increase the damage on something else. It's kind of like a counterbalance to the nerfs already. Below we have the developer feedback. So Lightning / telekinetics is assuming our DPS targets as a ranged burst spec role. For this reason, we are making the following changes. Whoever said that Lightning is exceeding the DPS targets? There is not a single person in the game right now that thinks Lightning is exceeding any type of DPS targets. So I'm not sure where they're getting this. Even a PvE perspective, I don't see Lightning outperforming. They're reducing a lot of its damage, and PvP was fine. The only problem with the spec in PvP is just the desync that it causes with all its mobility. So halted offensive / power of the force cast time increased to 3 seconds, up from 2.5. An increase to cast time allows players to not feel as if they have to hard cast this ability, especially in situations that require mobility. I don't think they meant it to read this way. An increase to cast time allows players to not feel they have to hard cast this ability, so they just don't want this ability to be hard casted, I guess? That's just a strange way to put it as far as the thoughts and feedback. I'm not sure they know what they're talking about on that one, and I'm kind of confused by the wording. Next, we have decreased halted offensive / power of the force damage by 15%. This change was made to bring the ability's damage in line with its intended damage value and bring the range burst specs damage correctly into line with the DPS targets. I wish they would just tell us what their DPS targets were, because we don't know. but from just a feeling perspective, as far as PvP goes, Lightning's fine. Lightning's not overperforming. There's nothing about the spec I would say it's overperforming in any way, shape, or form. Unless it's broken in PvE, but I don't even think that's the case. From what I know about the PvE situation, Lightning's just kind of middle of the road. So again, I'm not sure what their thinking is here. Then we have Convection / Clamoring Force, Thundering Blast / Turbulence / Reserve Darkness / Reserve Light, making Dark Heal / Benevolence an instant cast and increasing its healing by 30%, stacks up to 2 times. This change to Convection / Clamoring Force passive is made in the addition to the currently existing passive. The new buff is not replacing the old version of Convicting / Clamoring Force. In the future, we will make changes like these much clearer. So it's just an increase to the heal? I mean, I guess, but there's not really it's not really a problem for Lightning either. I don't understand why they're getting more healing. A lot of these changes just seem like they're not needed. Thunder and Lightning incoming turbulence ability mods now have their damage increased to 10% up from 5%, including halted offensive / power of the force. This change is being made to make the burst option more appealing in comparison to sustain and utility based option. As far as PvP goes, everyone's pretty much playing it as a burst spec. So this has to be targeted at PvE, but I can't think the spec sustain damage is very good to begin with. So again, I'm confused on this choice. I think overall, as far as Lightning goes in these changes, they're just straight up nerfing their damage. And I don't know why. It's kind of a mystery. Unless they're overperforming in PvE, which I don't think that's the case from everything that I've seen. They're kind of middle of the pack as far as PvE goes, so I wish they would release the DPS targets so we had a better idea of where they want things to sit. That might be the problem, but overall these changes are pretty much a net negative right now. I would rather them address the mobility of the spec than the DPS. I think the DPS is fine, it's just the mobility that needs tuned. Next, we have Madness and Balance. So Disintegration / Critical Kinesis, Death Field / Force and Balance, and Death Brand / Shifting Balance grant Vitiate's Malice. Warden's Vigor, giving Force, Lightning, and Telekinetic Throw 20% life steal for 12 seconds. That's not bad, but it's not great either. If you hit a bunch of people and stuff with Death Field, you might get a lot of health back for it, but I mean, I don't mind a buff to Madness though. Madness isn't really performing that great. Force Pour / String Thought increases periodic damage to 20% up from 15. That's fine. Madness is kind of underperforming anyway, so buffing Madness is fine. Lightning Barrage / Telekinetic Balance, Force Lightning / Telekinetic Throw, reduce damage, change to -20% from 25%. I'm okay with that. There's nothing major there. It's just a small little change. It's not gonna really affect that much. The next change is something I didn't even know was going on. So Tempest of Roe correctly applies 50% for Force Lightning / Telekinetic Throw to trigger periodic effects down from 75%. Apparently there's a bug in it and the effects were triggering at 75%. The only curious if it was bugged, given the fact that they weren't overperforming, I think this might actually be a major nerf to them. So the developer feedback is the change to Tempest of Roe Tactical was designed to first bring it in line with its original power level. In addition to that, the changes were made to distribute the DPS back into its class itself. I can see that since they are upped into the periodic damage by 5%, so it might just be a net neutral gain. We'll have to see when it comes out. We also wanted to discourage players for prioritizing Force Lightning / Telekinetic Throw over Lightning Strike / Disturbance when procced in order to get the best DPS output. I like this change. Overall, I think it's pretty solid and pretty good for the game. It just kind of makes it so the spec isn't just spamming Force Lightning over and over and over again, because that's kind of what Madness has turned into, just spamming Force Lightning. So that's a good, give it some variety, give it some kind of variety. Overall, I think the specs for Madness are in the right direction. Still buffled at the TK and Lightning changes, but Madness, I think they're going the right way. Next, we kind of have the doozy. So Advanced Prototype / Tactics. So here are the patch notes. So Magnetic Blast / Tactical Surge damage reduced by 14%. That is a huge sustained DPS nerf. Like, it's not going to affect their burst that much, but the sustained damage by 14%, that's a big nerf. Power Burst / High Yield Explosive mods stack damage bonus reduced to 4% stack from 5% stack, a total of 16% Bonus damage to thermal detonator down from 20%. That's a pretty big nerf too. Combined with the two, power attack's gonna fall off a little bit. Their burst isn't gonna be as strong because this is directly affecting their burst. So their sustain's getting weaker and burst is getting weaker. They are a very strong class, but I think there's a little bit more offensive classes in the game right now. Serrated Blades damage reduced to 5% down from 15%. That's not a big deal. Serrated Blades didn't do that much anyway. That's directly targeting towards their sustained damage. So as far as PvP, it's not a big deal. Blood Tracker / Triumph damage increased to bleeding targets is reduced to 3% down from 5%. Again, PvP wise, not a big deal. That's more targeted to their sustained damage. PvE, it's going to be interesting to see where they sit though, because they're going to sit a lot lower than where they are currently. I wonder if the nerf to Magnetic Blast is going to put them even in the lower tier of PvP. It might, and not PvP, but PvE, it might. We'll have to wait and see how that works. Lightning, Lingering Heat / Superheated Cells damage reduced by 50%. Again, a sustained damage change. I get they want to nerf the sustained damage. That makes sense. I just don't understand why they're nerfing the thermal detonator damage. That's the one nerf that I would say they shouldn't do. But overall, I think it's the right direction. They really are too high sustained. They're losing a little bit of burst, but it's mostly on their sustain. Let's take a look at kind of what the devs are saying about it. So advanced prototypes / tactics is exceeding our DPS targets as melee burst spectral. For this reason, we made the following changes. Magnetic Blast / technical surge damage was reduced by 14%. Magnetic Blast / technical surge damage was reduced to lower sustain and reduced the amount of DPS of this ability to contribute to an overall parse. I guess because people are, here's the problem is I think they're doing it off of parses, and it's not realistic. You're not floating your rail shot like PvP. You're just not doing it. So I think they're a little off with this change. Magnetic Blast / Technical Surge is intended to be a filler ability and not make up a majority of the DPS output on a burst melee class. I guess if they want to go down that way, but they need to put that damage somewhere else. That's my only concern. Is they are losing a lot. 14% is a lot of damage off of one ability that you use over and over and over again. That's going to be a pretty big sustained nerf. I would like to see them move that to high impact bolt or rail shot or something. At least give them something. I don't think that's out of the question. So I think that's a little harsh. I could see it being 5% down, but 14% seems a lot for an ability that is just used over and over. Power Burst / High Yield Explosive mod, stack damage bonus reduced to 4%, stack down from 5%, a total of 16, bonus to thermal detonator down for 20%. The change to Power Burst / High Yield Explosive mod was made to bring the mod more in line with the intended DPS increase a player should receive from a burst DPS mod. Their wording is very weird. I'm assuming what they're saying is they want to lower the burst damage of the spec. That's kind of the spec's only thing, though. The burst damage really isn't all that out of line with something like Deception. I mean, they're essentially kind of in the same ballpark, so I don't understand that. And Engineering has even better burst. And it takes a little bit of time to set up. Their defensives are bad, but they're not far off of those three specs together, so I don't know why we're nerfing the burst. I get the sustain. They have always been too high in sustain for a very long time. I think they might be overdoing it, but I don't understand why we're nerfing the burst. Well, that's kind of their one claim to fame. Next, we have Serrated Blades. Damage reduced to 5%, down from 15%. Combined into prototype rail / high friction bolts. Much like Magnetic Blast / Tactical Surge, this change was made to reduce the sustained damage of the spec. Again, I think it would be fine, but that's a pretty big nerf for sustained damage part. I'm just wondering what this spec is going to do outside of PvP. I think PvP, the spec is going to be relatively the same. It might drop down a tier. It might not be the complete S tier, but it's still going to have very good burst. And burst has always been king in PvP, so I think for PvP wise, it's going to be pretty good. I just think it's going to really drop in PvE. Like, you're really not going to run it. Next, we have Blood Tracker / Triumph. Damage increased to bleeding targets reduced from 3 down to 5%. This change to Blood Tracker / Triumph was also made to reduce the sustained class. So this class is just doesn't have sustained damage anymore, basically. It's going to go in, use all of its abilities, press all the abilities in its keyboard, and that's pretty much it. It's going to do all of its bursts, and after that, it's going to be dead. It's not bad for PvP. That's kind of how it already plays. Like I said, it's not a big change for PvP overall. Lingering heat / superheater cells damage reduced by 50%. The change to lingering heat / superheater cells mod was made to bring the mod further in line with what a sustained mod should give within a burst melee spec. Like I said, more targeted towards sustained. Overall, for PvP, I don't think it's gonna affect too much. And then we have a little kind of a side note. So what will happen after 7.1.1? We're going to be taking a look at the tank balance within the games, as well as a variety of quality of life changes for various classes. See, I can't read today. We will be taking a look at the other mods across classes and balancing them in order to make them more competitive with the go-to options players tend to take. I assume that means that like the choices in the talent trees too are going to be changed and maybe shuffled around, maybe something added, maybe some changes. It's kind of ambiguous, but that's kind of what I take it. And then tank balancing, yeah, tank balancing needs to take a look at. Tank balance is kind of awful right now. It's just it's at this point just play Vanguard PT tank while I play the other ones. I just wanted to close by thanking everyone for the feedback and hope to see more of it in the future. I hope these notes add some additional transparency on the changes and the feedback keeps coming. As always, balance is an ongoing process and we will keep you all updated with the class changes coming your way in the future. Overall, the only problem that I really have is just lightning. I don't understand why they're nerfing the lightning spec. It doesn't make a lot of sense. For PvP wise, nerfing lightning doesn't make any sense, but that's what they've chosen to do. This might be a PvE focused change. It's the only thing I can come to. Probably people that play more PvE know that more than me, but looks like the nerf to lightning is going to hurt it hard in PvP. It's going to drop down, probably maybe C tier spec. And as far as right now, it's just playable. It's strong, but it's not anything egregious. So those are the plan changes for 7.1.1. Go ahead and put your thoughts in the comments. Let me know kind of what you guys think about this and the direction they're going. I do like that we're getting more information though. So that's always good. They're actually explaining why they're making their decisions for once. We haven't had that in a long time. And make sure you guys subscribe, upload the video, like it. It really does kind of help everything out with the YouTube algorithm. And everybody have a good day. And as always, see ya.